There's 4 people in here. Tradition. Good evening and welcome everyone to the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board meeting of November 18th. I will open the meeting at 6:34 p.m. and I will take roll call. Vice President Shabomahin? Here. Trustee Alexander? Here. Trustee Bloom?
Here.
And Trustee Polito is running late. Quorum, and I am present. Quorum is present. We will move on to item number 2, which is the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no, nay. Motion carries 4-0. Now we will move on to item number 3, which is closed session. Before we go into closed session, if anybody wishes to address the board on any matters regarding anything that will be discussed in closed session, this is your time. See none. We will go into closed session and we will resume approximately at 7:15. Thank you. discussion and direction. For item number 3B1, there was discussion. For item number 3C, there was discussion and direction. For item number 3D, there was discussion and direction. No action was taken during closed session. Now we will move on to item number 5, which is from the floor. So if we have any members of the public that would wish to address the board on any matters that are not agendized, this is your time. As I see no speakers, we will move on to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. And I will entertain a motion.
Through the chair, I'd like
Trustee Polito,
to pull item 6F.
6F. Noted. Do we have any other? As I see none from the board, we will hear about item number 6F, which is the consideration to approve the consultant services agreement with Roy Advisors.
I was distracted. Are we pulling it for discussion now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is a contract that came before us about a year ago because COVID happened, and my understanding of that contract approval was that this individual is going to help us realign our goals because COVID kind of put a damper on our plan as far as like milestones and metrics and years to year. And that was her main purpose, along with other pieces, like she was going to have a communication piece, I believe, and I guess summer school. I understood it was for 1 year to get us back on track, yet I see this contract come before us again. And now it's to also monitor progress and include program evaluation. It has to do with the student learning program for the summer, and again, a communication piece. So the series of questions or concerns I have with this is that given that we were told it would be for a year, I wouldn't have expected it to be under the consent agenda. We found we needed to expand the scope of work, or it changed. And in addition to that, the summer learning program is generally led by Student Services Department. I want to understand why we need her to lead it, and maybe it has to do with COVID, I don't know. And also communication marketing campaigns. I've asked in the past that prior to approving anything that's financially linked to any communication piece, that I please be presented with the board, along with the board, a communication plan to understand the overall goal, the plan of our district, what are the different elements, what is the cost associated, who are the players, and what part do they play in our communication plan. This still doesn't give me that understanding based off of what I'm reading. I did read through the memo that was sent to us last Friday about the work that she has done, and there was a lot of great work there. But I still feel like I don't have the information that I need, and I don't have an understanding of why we need her to fulfill certain roles that should be led by our own staff. So those are my concerns and questions.
Oh, I appreciate, Trustee Polito, I appreciate the question through the chair. Last year's contract did include the efforts to realign our strategic plan, considering the context of COVID. She is currently supporting us through ensuring that our metric is adjusted based on current information that we have because of COVID interrupting assessments in our baseline data. So we're doing some readjustments there. In terms of summer school planning, the impact of COVID as it relates to the work that our staff has, it is a major lift so that we can continually focus on regular instruction. In addition to coordinating with other partners, typically it is in CNI department, not necessarily student services, but also with the implementation of our new evaluation system and compensation system that we hope to be able to implement after this evening, is going to need that assistance to be able to focus on something long-term where we need to focus our staff on things that are currently happening here during the regular instructional day in the year. I understand that there needs to be a greater vision around communication and marketing campaign, but there's a lot of things we want to get out right now that relates to major initiatives like the evaluation system, bond measures, and other projects. And so currently, for example, we utilize her skill set to be able to put together a press release in anticipation of some good news after this evening. And there's still going to be need around the COVID and planning and coordinating with the county and the city. And there's a lot of communication gaps going on that she helps us close around making sure that we have the vaccine, the testing situated for our community.
Okay, so I said early on that until I saw a plan, I didn't feel comfortable continuing to approve any contracts related to communication until I saw a plan. So I want to say that. But in addition to that, I understand the area she's helping in. And so I'm not questioning what she does, but I'm just, if she's here to continue pushing our strategic plan forward, that is a 5-year plan. So is she expected to be here through the 5-year span?
No,
Because right now we're going year by year, but if a lot of the work that she's doing has to do with our strategic plan, that's a 5-year plan. So every single year, we're going to potentially review and consider her role in pushing that work forward.
No, so this is a strategic pandemic recovery consultant. So this, as you notice, the contract is by month as needed as well. In addition, there's other initiatives the district may want to consider pursuing, including early childhood expansion, TK. In addition to how are we going to maybe extend the instructional day for early or at the end of the day. And so there's a lot of other initiatives that she would help us coordinate across our departments.
And you're expecting to accomplish all of this during the term of this contract.
These are things that can help, that we could have assistance in launching and initiating.
Okay, so this is not necessarily a project she's fully overseeing herself and going to see from beginning to end by the end of this term of contract.
No,
It's just helping to support launch these ideas.
and please know, we have a team also who's doing lifts in their specific roles. So when we're looking at, trying to determine what potentially the universal TK enrollment might look like, our director of student services is doing that projection. It's just doing the cross-department communication on these initiatives, kind of like a project manager.
If the grant has to do with COVID recovery, how do these other parts get paid for if some of this is not related to COVID?
The CZI has reviewed this grant as well, and it's part of the impact report and it included the potential.
So although some of it is not directly related, they're still supporting.
And this is very similar to a role that other districts have emulated.
Okay, so for me,
In a
it's
sense,
just about,
Ravenswood created a path to something also that was very appealing to other districts to help them with the lift.
okay, so for me, just because there's information here that I'm still waiting to receive as a trustee is why I pulled it, because although I understand the other pieces to it, I feel like I've stated it on other occasions, and I just felt like I had to pull it, because if I left it in and I, voted against it, then everything in the consent agenda would not be approved. So I pulled it for that reason, and those are my comments, and those are my questions. Thank you for answering, and that is all for me.
Do we have any additional comments on item 6F?
I have a follow-up question for Trustee Leader's concern. I know you said, Superintendent Daria, that you all are developing this plan around communication. Is there like an expected date that been?
So through the chair, we also discussed individually, and I believe I can share this, the need to consider right-sizing our central office and considering the best roles and deciding also on the responsibilities of those roles. And so there is going to be discussions about how a certain position could potentially be added to ensure that we have the tasks related to communications and marketing encompassed in the long-term plan. And we hope to bring that before the board in December 9th for a meeting, a proposal to work with a third party to help us with that.
Through the chair, so to clarify, Trustee Shibomani's, actually to clarify your answer to Trustee Shibomani's question, on December 9th, we're going to get a proposal about right sizing and people's roles. And a part of that will be a communication plan.
No, we'll get a proposal of a partner who will help us do an assessment of our central office.
Okay, so the question, I
Organization,
understood it as, when could we expect to see a communication plan? So that some of this uneasiness around the topic.
I will actually have to get back to the board on that.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, oh, sorry, through the chair, I just have a question or a comment. My understanding of the communications that she was in charge of from her last contract was that it was around COVID. And I have seen, I read the contract and I read the grant and I saw that it was around COVID and whatever the superintendent gave to her, right? Whatever other task was given by the superintendent. And so I just want to clarify here, the number 3, the coordinate communication and marketing campaigns, it's enrollment, including the safety plan to come back on campus. So this is including regarding COVID as well. And then the staff recruitment, teachers classified management. And that's something new that was not there in the old contract.
That is correct.
Through the chair, I would just like to clarify that last year when I had this discussion around communication, we were ending our contract with the previous communication firm. And I asked, so what are we doing? Who's going to lead that effort internally since we're moving on? That's not a contract we want to continue. It's not feasible, whatever. So I asked, how are we going to continue the efforts around communication, whether it's social media, whether it's the newsletters? Because there was just, even before COVID, there was communication we did. And the way I understood that conversation was that this is part of the work. This is why we need somebody like, Ann Waterman Roy, because she's going to help us transition that communication, take on that piece, because right now staff.
Thank you for this. Yes.
So I just did want to clarify that although I understand how the contract read when I had those discussions around communication, because I did want to know how we were going to transition, that was shared with me, which is why when other topics came up, I was confused as to, wait, I thought this person was going to do this, but I understand that you all saw that maybe there was a greater need, that she couldn't manage all the different components of communication because she also had COVID. She also had the strategic plan. But this goes back to my point. I want to understand what is our plan. I want to be thoughtful about it and strategic about it. And that way, when there's a financial implication, linked to this, every decision we make, I want to see what the budget is. What is our budget for communication? One of the reasons we did transition was a financial piece, right? We didn't think we should be spending X amount of money on communication, right? So how much are we going to be spending? And what is the vision? What is the goal? What are the different pieces that are going to build that plan? And what is the cost associated?
Thank you for the clarification that you're making. Ann Waterman is supporting with the newsletter and other communication that we have. I think the main component here that is missing is the marketing piece. And so we are trying to get and put our best foot forward through the cadence of the newsletters, through taking advantage and being proactive and putting our narrative out there around press releases. But I think the main piece also that's missing is the marketing piece. So sitting here and processing a bit more, I can imagine that we can bring something to the board in our January board meeting.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comment from the board? As I see none, I will entertain a motion for item 6F.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion. I've been making a motion to approve. Sorry, y'all, that's what no sleep gets you. And this is item 6F. Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 6F.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed, say nay.
Nay, for the reasons indicated that I need more information. Thank you.
The motion carries 4-1 with trustee Polito opting for nay. Moving on, we will go back to the consent agenda, item number 6, and I will entertain a motion.
Through the chair, I'll try again. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item number 6.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 7, which is curriculum and instruction. We will kick off with the LCAP federal addendum update for 2021-2022.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Lara Verena, Director of Curriculum and Instruction. The first item I'm presenting to you this evening is our LCAP federal addendum. The federal addendum serves as a supplement to the LCAP to ensure that LEAs meet plan requirements for ESSA funds. This plan must be submitted to CDE to apply for new funds, which does not apply to us this year, as the funds we're receiving, federal funds we're receiving, are a repeat of funds we've received in the past. However, it's required for our LCAP federal addendum to be reviewed locally. So the attachment was included on the board agenda, and I wanted to know if there are any questions or comments.
You, do you have any comment from the board? I see none. Thank you. Now we will move on to item.
So the action,
It's not- We need to take action. Yes. It's okay. It doesn't have to.
Okay. So for item number 7A, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to pass item number 7A.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries 5-0. We will move on to item number 7B, which is presentation on the Stanford Sequoia Research Collaborative for the 2021-2022 school year.
okay, the next item that I'll present is a brief presentation about the Stanford Sequoia Research Collaborative. The Stanford Sequoia K-12 Research Collaborative is a research practice partnership that we participate in along with 8 other school districts. The participating school districts are the Sequoia Union High School District and the 8 feeder districts to Sequoia. Having a research practice partnership means that we're in a long-term collaboration, that we focus on specific problems of practice with researchers at Stanford University, and that the goal is for the partnership to be mutually beneficial to practitioners and researchers, to foster partnership between researchers and the participating districts, and to have the research studies produced from the collaborative to lead to original analyses, so helping to inform the field of education because of the research being conducted in our districts and schools. I wanted to share with you some of the projects that we are participating in this year, and as well as one completed project. So the first project listed is the 3D EL project, comprehensive analysis of systemic practices and individual critical events in mathematics instruction and assessment of English learners. The lead professors are Willie Solano Flores, Guadalupe Valdez previously, and upon her retirement, we now work with Ramon Martinez. This project is actually going into year 5, so it's a pretty long-standing project involving the Sequoia Union High School District, Redwood City, and ourselves. So far, by looking at the data of English learners going into Sequoia, the study has found that ELs have more limited math course pathways than non-English learners, and also more limited pathways than students who have been reclassified. So that means that they have found more limited access to higher level math classes. Another finding from the study is that LTELs, or long-term English learners, also participate in, or complete rather, fewer A through G courses, which also means more limited opportunity for on-time high school graduation. So we're continuing this study this year, and it's helping us to think about reclassification and the experience of English learners in our school system. Another project that's ongoing this year is going into year 2. And this study is called Supporting Robust, Inclusive, Collaborative Mathematics, a district-level teacher professional development study with Professor Jennifer Langer-Osuna. So this study started last year working collaboratively with our K-5 math coach, who was leading a year 1 math lead cohort in professional development and coaching throughout last year. So far, in the first year of this study, Professor Langer-Osuna has found that teachers were able to make shifts in their approach to mathematics and math teaching and analyzing student work from an asset lens. This felt like a remarkable finding to us, especially considering our distance learning context for last year. This study is continuing into this year, and our math coach has also added a second cohort of teacher leaders that she's supporting, in addition to the first cohort who's continuing. This is a list of the new projects that we're engaged in starting this year. So the new projects include the following. One is understanding trajectories of English learners across 9 Sequoia districts, so all participating school districts, with a focus on reclassification practices with Professor Amy Gerstein and Tom D. This project is getting underway soon, so we've not started yet. The second project is called Learning to Lead for Equity, Leader Identity and Development with Janet Carlson. This project involves districts who are participating in a year-long leadership collaborative, and we have 4 members of our district or site leadership participating. The third project is called the Ravenswood Reads and Text Program with Rebecca Silverman. This project is looking at the effectiveness of one-on-one literacy tutoring in the Ravenswood Reads program, accompanied by frequent parent communication via text message. And then the fourth project listed here, which is not on the Sequoia Collaborative list always, but connected through Professor Rebecca Silverman, is called the Plavix Project. And that's with Rebecca Silverman and Kristen Keene. The Plavix Project is supporting 3rd through 5th grade teachers at 2 of our schools to learn strategies to support level 3 and 4 English learners and recently reclassified students to improve their proficiency across English language domains. And then finally, one project that I wanted to share with you has actually concluded, and this was the BGCP Building Readers Project with Michael Sulik and Jelena Obradovic. This study looked at the 2nd and 3rd grade Building Readers program in the BGCP after school program at 5 Boys and Girls Club sites. So 2 of those were in Ravenswood and 3 in Redwood City in the 1920 school year. And this study found that students who participated in the Building Readers program had higher reading levels and higher scores on tests of executive functioning than students who did not participate. And Boys and Girls Club is not continuing this particular structure or project of building readers, but using what they learned from this project to inform their activities generally. So that's a summary of the project we're participating in. Are there any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. Do we have any comments from the board?
Through the chair, I just have one question about the reclassification of EL students. I know that's a project that is starting, and I was just wondering how you're where you are, like your group, how are you guys thinking about that going forward? Just because, not meeting A through G requirements doesn't just mean that they don't graduate on time. It also means that they may not be able to go to a CSU or a Cal State or a CSU or a UC. And so that's just my question, because it sounds like, or it looks like, according to this, that if they are reclassified earlier, they have more opportunities, not only in math, but across all A through G classes.
Yes, absolutely. So the research study hasn't started yet, but our district practices for monitoring English learner progress and following through with reclassification are definitely underway. And so it's also one of our LCAP goals to focus on reclassification and to increase our rates of reclassification prior to students moving on to high school. The value that this research study brings is to help us understand reclassification practices across the 8 feeder districts to the Sequoia district. And then Sequoia as a district also is really invested in both serving English learners and monitoring RFEP students, and also ensuring students have a wide range of course access when they get to high school, which they also know is aided by reclassification.
Thank you.
If we have no other comments from the board.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
So now we will move on to item number 8, which is from Human Resources. We'll go on to item 8A, which is a consideration to approve the tentative agreement on Articles 8 evaluation and 12 compensation with the Ravenswood Teachers Association, RTA, from the date of board ratification through June 30th, 2022. I will kick it off to you.
Thank you, President Latu. Tony Stone, Director of Human Resources, and I'm joined by Rhonda White, the RTA President. As you know, we need to have highly qualified and excellent teachers for our students. We need to retain excellent certificated staff, attract excellent certificated staff, and we also need to develop certificated staff to become excellent. We're also looking for a compensation system to compensate our teachers as the professionals that they are. To that end, we engaged in interest-based bargaining with the RTA union, and we're happy to present tonight the Articles 8 evaluation and 12 compensation for your ratification.
Through the chair, could
Trustee
you
Boyle?
actually say a little bit about both so whoever's listening in can know what we're actually voting on?
So for the evaluation article, we have developed a more holistic approach to teacher evaluations. Teachers will develop portfolios of evidence that will be used to give them a summative evaluation based on the CSTPs or the continuum of coaching practice if they're an instructional coach. We have tentatively agreed to a compensation system that is flexible and fluid, and teachers will progress on that career ladder based on their performance from the year previous.
Do you have any comment from the board?
Through the chair.
Trustee Alexander?
I just want to say I'm really excited by the work that you guys put into this as an educator. And I know that other districts are looking at this district and what we have done here, what you have done here, and thinking about the implications for other teachers in other districts and how to get teachers being paid fairly across the board everywhere. I'm very excited by this. I almost makes me want to be a teacher in Ravenswood again rather than a board member.
Through the chair.
Trustee Bloom?
I am also very excited as a parent with kids in the district and as a board member, because I think that this not only is a testament to what Ravenswood School District is, because the teachers and the district staff came together and negotiated this, and I think that is amazing and awesome. I also think that the evaluation piece will definitely go into the classroom and really encourage and increase the practice and help kids even more. I also want to say that the fact that the majority of RTA voted yes on this shows how committed they are to our students. And I think there are a lot of teachers who go into districts and they sit back and they don't try to innovate or integrate or innovate. And saying yes to this shows that our teachers are for all of our kids, and they are always wanting to integrate and innovate and continue to grow and not just sit back to retire. And so I am super excited about this. And I think that this is going to not only be amazing to retain and attract great teachers, but I think it also will attract and retain the right teachers for our kids in our district. So thank you so much.
Through the chair. Now I have a comment question. I'm really excited about the valuation piece. I think it's great that everyone got to the table, and I was telling the superintendent and trustees that some years ago, try to come up with something, but it didn't quite work. And so I think seeing how leadership is working together and collaborating and unifying and figuring out how to make it work, I think is, kudos to both sides, right? Because now we're working together for growth and improvement. So I did want to say kudos to that. The compensation side, I'm a little bit concerned what happens after those 5 years, but I know that we're also doing a lot of other work to figure out how to fill those gaps. Because right now the plan is sustainable for 5 years, but not beyond. But I'm sure we'll also continue to work together, right? To find, those answers and be able to have this go beyond. So, so kudos to the team for working together, and we look forward to implementing all of this as we move forward. As one Ravenswood.
Any public comment?
Oh, I always have something to say. I just want to say thank you to Tony Stone for allowing me to stand up here with her. Usually this is just the presentation by a staff of Ravenswood. I guess I am a staff, yeah, but in a different capacity. So I just want to say, I want to continue to be thankful for the growth that the district and RTA has had together to come together with leaderships. There was a time when we sat across from the table and shouted and yelled. Not to say that we still weren't messy and dirty and down, but we're on the same side of the table and we were together in this piece. So I'm very thankful for the many people who came together to make this possible. I think Tony said it best, we now have a holistic process that's meaningful. We also have educators being paid as the professionals that they are. Some of us now won't have to take second jobs like we've done in the past. I think it also lends credence to the type of work that we are prepared to do and we do with our communities, our partners, and our friends to get done what should have been done a long time ago. And so now we're here, and it's a great thing. It's a blessing, and we can move forward. Now, don't get it twisted. The teachers are a little nervous. It's change. It's different, but we're all up for the challenge because, like Trustee Bloom said, we're here because we love these kids. And some of these kids are our own kids, and they are personal to us. And so I just want to say thank you again for the many people who've been a part of this, and give a special shout out to Tony Stone because she's been writing this language and taking the revisions and the corrections and the suggestions and the ideas. And special thanks to my negotiating team, Andrea Reyna, who was the leadership, Mary Trinkle, who's a math coach, Jessica Cox, who's dual immersion, Los Robles, Martin Sanders, who's special education, and Melissa Brown, who's an art teacher. We worked very hard to make sure as many voices from RTA side as well as the district did to make sure that there was a variety and a diverse set of voices and leaders at the table so that we could have a true, authentic, messy, productive conversation. So once again, thank you to this community, to the families and the students, and to this board for continuing to make difficult decisions. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Through the chair. There was no table, literally, when we were negotiating. There was no paper being passed back and forth. There were ideas, and there was a concept, and there were goals. And I cannot thank enough, specifically Tony, Will, and Jen, who were part of the negotiation on the management side. To Rhonda's point, Tony took all of our ideas, concepts, things that were written on chart paper, and put it into our contract. And Andrea did review.
As well as my CTA staff person, Kathleen BB, who went above and beyond outside of what she's paid to do.
There was no lawyer at the table. There was no table. There was no lawyer. There was just commitment to determine how we can make a process be authentic. And there was some creativity as well in creating a innovative salary ladder, not a schedule, that Will shared with us. And because we really wanted to focus on how to improve instruction, to improve student outcomes, you have what you have before you to approve for consideration. And I want to thank Tony, Rhonda, Will, Jen, and all the RTA team for the work and the commitment to it.
Do you have any additional comment?
Actually, one more comment.
Okay.
Sorry. The principals and vice principals also, this is going to be new for them, right? And I think I want to emphasize this is a soft launch year because it's going to be messy. But we are working hard right now in terms of launching and sharing with principals and vice principals to build the capacity to be instructional leaders. But we're excited about this being a process where principals and VPs are engaging with teachers with a common language using our CSTPs on a regular basis throughout the year.
Vice President Trevor-Heath.
I feel like everything's already been said, so I don't really need to say anything, but I just want to recognize the moment. And first of all, my gratitude for everyone working together, everyone with this dais, everyone here in this room who's not, but are represented by the hearts and intentions that are here today. But I also want to just call out the fact that, I don't know, I just feel really good about the shared intention of everyone. And I know there's been a history of, different things, and that could paint the picture that we're not on the same page a lot of times. Board members, teachers, staff, faculty, et cetera, family, community members. But really, I think that we are. And I think that sometimes you have these competing priorities that make it, again, very difficult to come to a place where we can agree. So it feels really good that we have this agreement before us today, but just recognizing that we truly are working with the same intention, and that is that we want to create the best district for our students. And sometimes that's hard when you got a little bit of money and you got fiscal responsibility. And so, we're trying to figure out where you put the money. So glad that we have this, glad that we're going to be pushing forward, trying to continue this and sustain this. And so that's going to be the real work over the next few years. So yeah, just recognizing that intention and that challenge that we're facing together. So thank you again for everybody.
Before we vote, I'll just add in a little something too. I think this is a beautiful time for Ravenswood. I think that you can know, when we came in as a board, we said, we're committed to this, to not only these families and these students, but we're committed to our staff as well. And we have been making changes, and we've been trying our best to make sure that our decisions aren't in line with where we want to go and not where we are. And so I just want to let the community know that this isn't a rush decision. This was weeks, if not months, of conversations, of working together, of revisions, of discussions, to be where we're at right now. I feel like we're in a great position. I want to commend everybody that worked on this, between our district staff, RTA. This is a new era of Ravenswood. This is one Ravenswood. And we're really working to do right. And so I just want to say thank you all. Thank you to this board. And with that being said, for item number 8A, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we, to approve item 8A.
Thank you.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Woo, that was great, right? We're not done yet, y'all. We still got the rest of the agenda. We will now move on to item number 9 from the business department, and we will go to 9A, which is Educator Effectiveness Grants.
Good evening, trustees. This is substantially less exciting than the prior item. The state of California has given us a educator effectiveness grant. It's a grant given to districts across the state. It's 5 years to spend down a little bit over $800,000. The state requires us to present a plan on how we're going to spend the money. Our proposed plan for how to spend that money is to address those funds during the upcoming budget cycle. There's no obligation to spend it this year. So instead of rushing to come up with a plan now outside of our budget cycle, we're proposing to handle that sort of holistically with the rest of the budget. That concludes my presentation.
I have a question. Would this 800,000 be beneficial? Because I remember that you were talking during your fiscal year presentations about a cliff that we could potentially, would this be able to help alleviate some of that, or would it not?
It's a good question. I believe this is intended to be thought of as one-time funds. So in a way, it actually furthers the cliff. But again, that's partly why we're thinking about this as sort of like a longer-term initiative and not rushing to spend it all now when we do have significant resources, but instead being just thoughtful about the timeline on which we spend this, that it could potentially help address the cliff instead of helping to contribute to the cliff.
Do we have any other comments from the board?
This is actually, I'm sorry, an information item. We're required to present this plan, and then the board will vote on the plan at the subsequent meeting. And it has to be done by the end of December, which is why we're presenting it now. I believe it'll be on the consent agenda. So.
Well, do we have any other comment from the board? I see none, so we can move on to item number 9B, which is a consideration to approve Citizens Oversight Committee report for Measure H.
California Education Code requires districts that have expended bond funds to have a Citizens Oversight Committee. We have a group of very dedicated individuals who've been meeting to clear, frankly, a little bit of backlog on some of our Citizens Oversight Committee. During the pandemic and just before, we had a difficult time forming the committee. But we have reformed. We have a very dedicated group that have been meeting more or less monthly, maybe once every 6 weeks or so, to review all of our expenditures over the last few years. I'm pleased to present Drake Diedrich tonight, who's going to walk through the committee's 2 most recent reports, which, unlike last time, the board does need to approve receiving. So I apologize for that mistake last time, but we do need to approve both these reports if the board so chooses at the end of Drake's presentation. So without further ado, I'll introduce
Sorry, sir, can you speak into the mic, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I will read out the committee's findings. Based on its review, the committee has concluded that the district is in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, Section 1B3 of the California Constitution, specific to Measure H, for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2018, and concluding June 30th, 2019. I will now just mention some of the things that we see that was spent on. The majority of the spending for that bond during 2018, 2019 was at Ronald McNair. It was for a new parking lot and a new kindergarten. And it turns out those are fairly expensive resources. So that was more than half of the 8.5 million spent for the year. The other expenditures were following along with the warm, safe, and dry on roofing, on other sites as well, some of their facilities. All of the schools have had their entire networking layers redone, as well as the phone systems, so they're completely rewired. Exactly where those expenditures show up is often under district-wide expenditures, so that's why you don't always see it at individual sites. But that is our report for Measure H. Measure S has similar language. It has been spent in accordance as expected, but the expenditures
sir.
have not, oh, sorry.
Sorry, really quick. I think we need to vote first on
right.
Measure H before we continue to Measure S. So does the board have any questions or comments in regards to what was presented for 9B? As I see none, I will entertain a motion for item 9B.
I move to approve item 9B.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Now we will move on to 9C, so you can continue with Measure S. Thank you.
So moving on to Measure S. Measure S was a larger bond. It was up to $70 million. It has only, at least in 2018, 2019, it had only just begun to become active. So the only expenditures were related to the bond itself, starting the process of selling the bonds and some expenditures related to that. So as yet, it hadn't done any groundwork. And the committee's findings are based on its review. The committee has concluded that the district is in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, Section 1B3 of the California Constitution, specific to Measure S, for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2018, and concluding June 30, 2019.
Thank you. Do we have any comment from the board in regards to item 9C, which is the report for Measure S? As I see none, I will entertain a motion for item 9C.
I move to approve item 9C.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the
Um,
report,
Thank
for
you.
volunteering your time.
Thank you. Now we will move on to item 9D, which is the consideration to direct staff to explore a community hub at the field off of Bay Road.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you again to Drake and the whole Citizens Oversight Committee again. It's been a lot of work for them, and we're just really grateful for all of the work that they put in over the last 6 or 7 months. So thanks again, Drake. I want to talk about something that's an exciting initiative that we've been working on behind the scenes for the last few months, and just want to give you guys an update as to where we are, as well as updating the overall. We are, after a good bit of deliberation, hoping to develop what we're calling a community hub at the field off of Bay Road. The idea here would be to develop the space to include a whole bunch of different things, potentially a district office, potentially, as we'll talk about, a new library, potentially some sports areas for the community, maybe something like a health clinic or other services that are used by our community that really align with the mission of the district. And the goal is to build this space at the lowest possible cost to the district. We have very limited bond funds remaining, as Drake was just talking about. And we want to put all of those bond funds into our classrooms. We'd also like the board's permission to begin sort of engaging the broader community in how we want to actually use this space. It's still a bit of a dream, but we are at a point where we think there's enough of a chance that it could really happen. We do want to start talking about it publicly and seriously, while knowing that there's not necessarily guaranteed funding to make this happen right now. So a little bit of a chicken and egg question of, when do you start engaging? But our thought is now is sort of the right time. Superintendent, sorry, I don't know if you want to add anything to this or. All right. There is a lot happening at CCRMS over the next few years. And we wanted just to provide a bit of a map outlining all the different things that are happening. The main one, of course, is this box in yellow here, which is our $50 million bond funded renovation to replace and renovate every single classroom at the middle school, as well as building 2 new buildings. The other is, as we've talked about, and I think the board's approved a couple of contracts with the Magical Bridge Foundation. They're in the early stages of their designs we'll talk about, but they're making a pretty big, compelling, grand vision for the back area there and are working to actively fundraise for that site. There's also the 8 to 80 zone happening, which is a sort of world-class esports arena that we've heard a lot about at the prior board meeting. And we're proposing, for the focus of today, is the community hub location, which is at the field off of Bay Road. Here's sort of a what this could look like hypothetical. You'll notice a couple of things. Sports field, you'll see we're incorporating, you can't quite see it, but on the right there's a basketball gym. We're thinking about a library, potentially in partnership with the city, as we'll talk about. Other office space, places for people to have functions and birthday parties. We've heard from the community, there's not enough of that in East Palo Alto. We're looking to get more, as well as some other opportunities to explore, whether that's a health clinic or other sort of direct community services. We've also talked about what I've sort of referred to at various times as do-gooder housing. So not just teacher housing, but thinking about housing for our various staff members, or potentially for other employees who do really good work in our community, potentially people who are partners who work closely with us in a variety of topics. I want to take a moment just to talk a little about the city's library. This is pulled from their public plans. You can see on the left their vision for the new library, sort of what it would look like on the street, as well as a couple of their floor plans. I think it's important to understand a couple of things. One, this is a brand new state-of-the-art, really imaginative space. Absolutely spectacular. The second thing to understand is it's very aligned with a lot of things that the district's already doing. So it's not just like teen reading rooms, elementary school reading rooms. There's also exciting things like makerspace areas or test kitchens or other areas, sort of lounge, reading nook, access the internet, things like that. Things that I think we're looking for more spaces in our community for students to enjoy and provide. I want to talk just for a moment about how we would think about financing this whole thing. We're kind of cobbling together a couple of different funding sources. So one of the things that we're thinking about is the potential for some partners to pay upfront to cover some construction costs. So for example, the city and the county have already identified funding sources to cover the cost of the library. It's also possible if we can bring in the right nonprofit partners, they could cover some of the upfront costs of construction for their subcomponents of the site. There's also the possibility to develop affordable housing on the site for our staff and use then the leases from that to sort of pay back the construction costs of the site. That would allow us not necessarily to bring in new revenue from the site, although that's a possibility, but mainly to basically have the structure that benefits the community for free. So get something that really benefits everyone at no cost to the district. And I know that this has just been something that we've talked about before, but I just want to make it extra clear. We are in no way proposing selling any land or giving any land away. The intent is to sort of get a building at no cost to us, but in no way give away land as a sort of precondition. As I mentioned at the onset, I want to just sort of be clear of where we are in this process. I know there's been a lot of exciting things talked about in a whole bunch of different ways, and construction takes a long time and sometimes doesn't pan out. So just as like we are on like our sort of idea funnel feasibility approach here. Someone identifies need, we explore it internally, we explore it externally in sort of quiet conversations. And then we get to a point where it's, we think there's enough here to really bring that forward to the community. A lot of ideas don't make it this far. But that doesn't, of course, mean that the idea is done and ready to go. Just bring it to the board to talk about now. Had a couple conversations in our facility subcommittee about it. We've had a couple conversations with various people at school sites. But we're still early. So we want to get some feedback on this, both from the board tonight, as well as from the community down the road. And at the same time, if the feedback suggests that we should continue, we want to get some feedback on possible funding and kind of try and line that up before bringing to the board an actual plan. So in a way, what we're asking for tonight is permission to continue to explore this seriously and openly. We're thinking about that in sort of two ways. One is trying to figure out with city staff what it would look like to locate the library on the field off of Bay Road. How would we do that in a way that makes it accessible for adults, but doesn't allow adults to wander onto our campus by accident? Right? How do we make sure we do that safely? And how do we make sure that when our students are coming from the school, they have sort of a great welcoming way onto the library, so the library feels like part of the campus while still being a little healthy distance away? How do we think about the leasing structure and the ground lease agreement we have to enter into the city with? So figuring out sort of big issues like that, we're hoping to work with the city staff to figure out if this is actually something we could both do. The second is on sort of the other side of the building, is there a way that we can build a structure here that doesn't bring any cost to the district and also addresses some needs we've heard in the community around affordable housing for our staff, and use some of that sort of building expertise to address other needs, like having a new district office for us. This is going to be fairly complex to finance. And so part of our thought is to do an open proposal that's not necessarily binding us to any individual partner, but allows us to see various parties who might be interested in approaching something like this. Obviously, any proposal would have to get approved by the board. So this is authorization to enter into any agreements rather than just, we're asking the board, hey, this seems like something we'd like to pursue exploring, and then come back to you once we have sort of a specific concrete plan. That concludes my presentation. Superintendent, sorry.
I don't have anything else to add to that.
Do we have any comment from the board?
Through the chair.
Trustee Alexander?
So in the idea of putting the public library at the campus brings back all the public library at the Bellhaven campus and everything that was around that. Are we then thinking that this would be the library that the students at CCRMS use, so there would not be a school library there? This would be in lieu of a school library?
I'm really glad you asked that. No, is the short answer. So the design for the school includes what's called a media room. If we were to place the city library here, though, we might think about how we use that media room in a different way. So potentially not have as many books or have books in different ways or different layouts to sort of maximize usable spaces. But no, having a library here would not preclude the city from having their own, the school from having their own library that is just theirs. Right? And I think to your point about the Bellhaven Library, I think there's been things that we liked, things that we didn't like about that partnership. So I think it's been a helpful learning opportunity for us as we think about pursuing an approach like this.
Do we have any other comments from the board? I think I have a comment. It's a broader comment, not just on this specific site, but I think it might be beneficial for the community if we can have somewhat of a timeline or a map of all of the construction and stuff that's going on across all of our sites. Just because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and unless you attend a board meeting, you might not know. And I've seen comments online that were just like, did you know that this school was doing construction, or did you know that there was going to be trucks down this road? And I just say that because I want to make sure that the community is aware and that we're communicating in more than just one avenue. So that's my only comment.
Through the chair, I also want to reinforce that this is not really going to be a revenue generating site, right? And I want to make that clear to the community. Unlike some of the other projects we're considering, this won't be revenue generating because The 30-year leases, we're asking for the money upfront in order to cover construction costs, so that we don't necessarily have to go for another bond or, pull from our funding that we have. So I just want to clarify that this space is really a community shared space. And although we will need to calculate maintenance of it over time, this is not for revenue purposes. And I also want to say a side note, I don't remember the housing piece in our facilities committee, but we can talk about that at our next facilities committee meeting. That was, right, yeah, no. That's it, thank you.
So, do we have any other comment? So this is a action item. So I will entertain a motion for item 9D.
So is this just giving direction or can we double check? Yeah, how do we approve giving direction?
This,
Giving compensation
we just
to
vote to
managers?
approve it. Yeah, it's just to explore. It's not an action item. Just to see what this is.
Explore
So I will make a motion to approve item 9D, consideration to explore the community.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. This is the longest board meeting we've ever had, and everybody's just going downhill.
No, it's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
We will move on to item 10 from the superintendent's office. Item 10A is the District Advisory Council and District English Language Advisory Committee update.
Great, I know Michael Shaw, our systems network, it is setting it up. I'll be doing a quick presentation about our District Advisory Council and District English Advisory Committee. It's similar content that our compliance coordinator has developed so that we can use this information to inform our committee members. But it's also an opportunity to be able to highlight who our members are, roles and responsibilities, and the topics that we cover, and promote, thank you, our next meetings. So yes, we'll be covering those topics I just mentioned. So the purpose of our DAC/DLAC is to review and provide input on district plans and funding, consider the needs of all students, and discuss other topics that are important to the Ravenswood community. And if you were to go to our website under students and parents, and then click under advisory committee, you will be able then to find our information about the DAC/DLAC meetings, in addition to how to connect and participate in the meetings that are virtual. The composition of our committee and our council is made up of parents, community members, and staff. And our parents of English language learners must make up 51% of our committee. And we do have representation from our school site ELAC members that represent each site at our DAC/DLAC meetings. So our committee members, we have new committee members this year, and their term based on our bylaws are for 2 years. And so we have Alice Taimani, who is the president and also official SSC ELAC representative. She has children both at Castaño and Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. We have Jesus Villalobos, who is our vice president, and she has children at Castaño. You have Yesenia Guzman, who is our secretary. She has children at Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy. You have Sarah Vaca, who's our parliamentarian and official SSC ELAC rep, who represents Castaño. She is also a parent who is on our Ravenswood Education Foundation board as well. We also have Guadalupe Maciel, who not only is a staff member, but a parent and represents Bellhaven Elementary School. And then again, you have Antonia Macias, who was with us last year, and she represents Los Robles Ronald McNair as a school site ELAC representative. And so these are our new members who I really appreciate, are accessing all the documents online, come to meetings in preparation to review the agenda, so that they are prepared for the content that is discussed at the DAC-DLAC meeting. So this is just the roles and responsibilities that each of the president, vice president, secretary, and the other members hold. And the goal specifically too for our SSC ELAC representatives that are the site reps is to ensure that there's two-way communication. That's one of our goals in regards to increasing family communication and making sure there's two-way information being passed, not only from the site, but from district office to the site, site to the district office. So there's a specific agenda item there to ensure that the site representatives understand what information we would like them to take back to their school site council and ELAC. So what you see here are specific responsibilities as well as that the DAC and DLAC are responsible for, a little bit redundant there. But we definitely cover LCAP, also making sure that we address English language learners, how are specific funds being spent, and then also getting input and collaboration on specific policies. One of the things that we need to make sure we do, especially just in good practice, obviously, but also to be able to have access, report to our auditors, is that we want to make sure that we do some progress monitoring of our roles and responsibilities. And so we are keeping track of topics that we need and must discuss with parents as a mandate. But more importantly, these are items that we should discuss with families and parents as it relates to their children. And so we keep ourselves aware of topics that we need to make sure we cover to remain compliant, but also to ensure that we move programs and student outcomes. Okay. Typically meetings, we only need to have 5 meetings out of the year for DAC-DLAC, but you'll see the future meeting dates that we hold a meeting each month. And these are items that have been covered thus far specifically. These are several topics too, other topics that we will make sure we cover during the DAC-DLAC, apart from the responsibilities. There were other specific topics that families wanted to discuss that are not on this list. One was, for example, child nutrition and education report. And then again, I mentioned that we have a standing item to ensure we know what communication will go back to sites, and then sites with their outreach coordinator ensure that there is communication from the sites to the DAC-DLAC meeting. And we've already held 3 meetings. We have one scheduled for December 16th, and you can see the calendar dates for the next DAC-DLAC meetings. And again, all this information is also on the website, along with the minutes from our DAC-DLAC. So all family members can review the website to be able to find the minutes from our meetings. Very similar to the board.
Wonderful. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, just gratitude for everyone signing up. Thank you so much.
Right, the committee members do have a couple of roles. Some are attending SSC ELAC and DAC, and we actually have a committee member who is on the RUF board, DAC-DLAC, and SSC ELAC.
I love that. Through the chair. Yay, bravo.
And then I just want to also say on a side note, I like your slides 4 through 5. I think it's important that people can visualize,
Oh.
know how things roll. Sorry. Okay, if there's nothing else, we will move on to item number 11, which is from the Board of Trustees. We will jump down to item 11B, which is an action item. Do we have any questions or comments regarding 11B? As I see none, I will entertain a motion. Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 11C, which is the board approval of district correspondence to the San Mateo County Superior Court regarding placement of former inmate within the jurisdictional bounds of the district. So I would just like to give the public a brief on why I put this on the agenda. The San Mateo County courts are looking to place a sex offender within this community, very close to some of a lot of school sites. And this is a great concern. And so I talked with county council, and they had told me that, you know, if we want to write on behalf of the board, it should be agendized. And so I know that the court date is in early December. And so I wanted to bring this up for discussion and for us to vote whether we should move forward or not. Do we have any comments from the board?
Through the chair, when I saw the announcement on the, that this was coming down, I immediately contacted our superintendent, Surati. And this is something that is very troubling, especially considering the location of where they're considering putting this person, you know, within walking distance of many schools. So yeah, I thank you for bringing this up.
Chair, I also agree this is a grave concern. If you look at the immediate communities around us, they would not be placing this individual in such close proximity to schools as they are to us. And this issue is bigger than this one incident. And I think it shows the value that they place on us by not caring about how this repeat offender is being placed and potentially creating harm in our own community.
Through the chair, I will also agree, and I also just want to say that I believe this was also violent repeat offender, and so I think that that is another level that we also need to take into consideration, and especially, like everybody said, walking distance within multiple schools, not just in our district, but schools that we are a board of. And so we need to keep that in mind. And from what I've heard from the community is the majority of the community is also against this. And so I think we as a board do need to make a very strong statement.
Through the chair, honestly, I think the biggest impact in addition to this letter is having community voice when this decision gets made, because present that day. Because without it, if they can kind of slide it through, if they don't have enough pressure or resistance, they will move about it. So I would love to see if we can partner with the city, if we can partner with some nonprofits and actually gather community together to show up, be present, and allow our voices to be heard about how we oppose this and how this negatively affects and impacts. And it's historical. It's historical in East Palo Alto, that they're constantly placing sex offenders, repeated sex offenders, violent offenders, all kinds in our community. And I think in addition to this letter, if we can seek out who would like to partner with us and actually create action the day of, I would love to participate in that.
Yeah, I totally echo everything. I think we should also notify city staff that we did take action tonight, just so that they know that this is where we stand as a district. And I can't say, because, there's been comments like, what about all the other ones? I wasn't there then. I can't go back, but I will say now and going forward, this is something that we're going to address. And with that being said, if there's no other comments, we will move on to, I will entertain a motion to approve item 11C.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 11C.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries 5-0. Now we will move on to item 11D, which is board reports and communication.
Through the chair, I'll just be real quick. There have been multiple family nights at schools, and I think that it's really great to see all the kids and in smaller groups to participate. Art night at Castano, I didn't get to go, but my kids and my husband went, and they had a lot of fun, and I have amazing tambourines at home, so thank you to the music teacher for that. And we were able to pack boxes at Los Robles on Tuesday this week, and I think the first graders ended up packing all the boxes, so no other group could actually pack anything for the rest of the week. So that was really fun to be able to not only be with families, but also give back to our community. And I think that our group at Los Robles really, really enjoyed that. So I just want to say thank you to all of the students and staff and teachers and administrators that are making all these things happen and building community within our schools. And I really appreciate that.
Through the chair. I just wanted to comment that I had an opportunity to visit a fourth grade teacher. I know her first name, but not her last name. So Paige Richards, to visit her classroom and experience. It was an evening event where the students did a lot of math work and brought a soccer field to life out on the field, did all the measurements, and they actually striped it themselves. And it was really exciting to see the parents and the teachers and the kids and how they used makerspace and art and math and made it this whole multidisciplinary activity, reinforcing standards. It was exciting to see, especially the kids with all their matching t-shirts that they made in the makerspace. And really exciting to see that happening.
I would also like to share that Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School was in the news this week. I shared the video on my Facebook, and I will share it on Neighbors as well. So I just want to say kudos to the staff. It was a wonderful clip. It was great to see one of our teachers and our kids in such a positive light. It was really encouraging. Also, it's holiday season coming up, so I just want to remind all the drivers out there on the roads to look twice when schools are going into session and out of session, to keep our roads safe for our kids and stay warm. With that being said, yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Or break for everyone else celebrating. And with that being said, the next board meeting will be held on December 9th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. and open session will be at 7:15. With that being said, I will adjourn the Ravenswood City School District Governing Board meeting at 9:53 p.m. Thank you.